What's up, agents? Zer here, welcome back to the lab. We've got a brand new update 1.7, so I figured in this video we might as well go ahead and take a look at everything inside of this update. Now, before we go ahead and get started, I want to apologize that I have not had a video in a little bit of a week. And there is a reason, however, I'm not going to go into details, but it's because I've been trying to do stuff IRL, and I'm actually having to do a lot of waiting while I try to get this to happen. So until that actually happens, I'm going to go ahead and start uploading every day like I used to. So you guys don't have to worry about that. Now, once things start happening IRL, that means that videos are probably gonna slow down, so I just want to let you guys know about that. But otherwise, let's go ahead and get straight into this update. Now, this is technically labeled as a major update because it's a brand new update. Obviously, we're no longer in 1.6. This is a completely brand new 1.7, but I would technically argue that this is a minor update, even though it's a brand new update number. There's only a limited amount of stuff that is actually in this update, and unfortunately none of the items that are mentioned from Minecraft on Earth, which I did technically miss, but I've been trying to catch up, well, none of those features are actually currently in 1.7. Whether or not they're going to actually implement some of that stuff in, I don't know. However, I do know that if you're in the beta versions of the game, that you can access or view these features. I know for a fact Panda and Bamboo and Scaffolding are actually currently in the beta, but not in this version of Minecraft, unfortunately. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started because I've been talking long enough. So let's go ahead and start off with something that's not really highlighted as a main new change to the game. This is actually labeled as a fix on the changelog, which, before I go any further, I'm going to have linked down in the description the URL that you guys can go to look at the entire changelog. So if you like looking at what bugs are fixed and all that kind of stuff, you can go ahead and look into that. But this is something that's, again, labeled as a fix, and I wanted to go ahead and mention this because I thought this was mildly interesting. And some of you guys might not find this interesting at all, but I wanted to mention this because this gets something off of my back that is kind of annoying me. So we have ourselves cooked cod and raw cod. Now, this may not seem like all that important of a thing. However, in previous versions of the game, when the Aquatic update was first released, these items, although they did have a texture change, they were not renamed. They still technically said cooked fish and raw fish. And by the way, I did not rename either of these items. These are default names, and you can tell that because the name is actually normal instead of slanted, whereas if you name something in the name, the text will be slanted. And this is just, as I mentioned, only something minor, but this is honestly something that has kind of annoyed me a little bit, not enough to complain about. And honestly, when I saw this, I honestly thought that because of the amount of resource packs that I have installed, which I actually do have installed right now, I honestly thought it was because of some error in one of the resource packs I had installed, but apparently that actually wasn't the case. That was all in the game's code, apparently. So the fact that Mojang renamed them to their proper name, again, it's not really game changing, but I thought, again, mildly interesting, so I want to go ahead and mention it. Now, I'm actually going to go ahead and pull out this cooked cod because this is actually a brand new feature implemented into the game. So as you can obviously tell, I am in creative mode, so obviously I can go ahead and fly just as further proof, but I can actually go ahead and eat this cooked cod, which is something you could not do previously. I don't know what the reason behind this is, but you can go ahead and eat food when you're in creative mode, but that's not all implemented as far as this feature is concerned. So I have a command block right here that says survival, and a command block right here that says peaceful. You guys can probably guess where I'm going with this. So I just went and changed my game mode to survival, and based on the one command block, I am now in peaceful, which means my hunger is not going to go down by any means, and any damage that I would in fact take would be quickly regenerate. So I can actually go ahead and eat this in peaceful now, which again just like in creative mode, doesn't make any sense because you're not going to lose any hunger whatsoever, but it is a brand new feature, and I figured I might as well go ahead and mention it. Now I will go ahead and mention that there are technically only 2 features listed on the changelog, and the rest of them are like changes and fixes and all that stuff. And the other feature, the whole eating food in creative and peaceful thing, was actually a feature. This next one is also a new feature. That's the brand new scoreboard command. Now I did play around a little bit as to working with this, but I don't fully understand it, so I'm not going to go into full detail in this video how the scoreboard commands works, because I'm actually going to have to do a ton of research into this command in order to figure it out. And this is more specifically aimed at map makers such as myself, although it's, again, a very complicated command to figure out. But I also found out that this command is also somewhat bugged out, because I know in some instances, like for example, if you have a death scoreboard where it counts how many times you've died, obviously if you're starting off a map, you're going to want it to be set to 0, but apparently you can't actually set it to 0. It comes out with a syntax error. I don't know if that's a bug or that's directly implemented, because they seem to have removed another 0 integer thing, which that doesn't make any sense, but I know exactly what I'm talking about, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. And apparently the autocomplete feature doesn't seem to be working correctly with scoreboard. So let me go ahead and show an example. So if I go ahead and go into /gamerule and go ahead and put a space next to it, obviously as you can tell, it shows the entire list of things that you can go ahead and type in above. Obviously a lot of them are cut off because of the screen size that I have. If I just type in one letter, like for example, it says PvP right above where it is. So if I put in P, it auto completes and shows everything in that list that has a P in the name. That much is fairly obvious because that's how it's always been. However, if you do the same thing with scoreboard, and this is actually part of the reason why I don't fully understand this command just yet, is that it doesn't actually let you use the exact same autocomplete features previously. So, like for example, it's hard to tell at the very top, and I actually only realize what this says at the very top because I looked up a web page that told me how the command actually works. And as I mentioned before, I don't fully understand it just yet, but also just by predicting what it says up at the very top, it says objectives. So if I go ahead and start typing in objectives, it does not actually start to actually autocomplete it for me. And this is part of my problem with trying to figure out how this command works. So I'm actually going to go ahead and complete this. And as you can obviously tell, it actually does start to put this in for me, but that still is no excuse as to how it's working. I'm assuming this is some sort of a bug because this is a brand new command. And I also want to mention, this command is very minimal at the time. Not all the features for scoreboard that you see in, for example, Java Edition, although I'm pretty sure Java Edition is the only other version of the game that has this, but it is not 100% the exact same. There are features missing, so you're gonna have to wait some time before all the features are fully implemented. Now we also have another, this is a brand new game rule. This is technically listed as a change, but personally I see this as a feature. This is command blocks enabled. Now, as with most other game rules, you can set this to either true or false. And I actually have a little bit of research that I have to get done after I finish recording this video, because if I am not mistaken, obviously I can do research, and if I'm wrong, I'll let you guys know with some text on screen. If I'm not mistaken, obviously this part I know I'm not mistaken about. If you have cheats turned off, this is obviously going to be disabled by default. That much is a given. But if you have cheats turned on, I'm assuming then that means that command blocks enabled is actually going to be on by default. I'm not 100% sure about this. Again, I'm going to have text on screen in case I am wrong about this. But yeah, this is a brand new game rule, and obviously if you have this set to true, that means you get to actually have use to these command blocks. If you have it set to false, that means command blocks will not run, which actually makes a lot of sense. Now, last but not least, this is a brand new feature. Again, this is also labeled as a change. Actually, I would technically say this one is a change as opposed to the gamerule, which I feel is a feature. This is actually completely brand new, and this is kind of like a 50-50 split on it actually working. So if I go ahead and press this, it actually says my name at AgentCP0. Obviously, my username does not have at in the name, but you guys get the idea. Now, that doesn't seem all that interesting at first, but if I go ahead and open up the chat, as you can tell, it is now labeled in yellow. So it will actually, if you are in a multiplayer game and you use this feature, then obviously you're going to notice that you're trying to specifically talk with someone else specific. Now, whether or not this is actually going to specifically be yellow for your username and it's going to be white for anyone else's username, I'm not 100% sure, but it does label it in yellow. Now, what I don't fully understand is why when you activate it in the normal chat, it's white, but when you open up the chat interface, it's yellow. I don't understand why that's the case, because if you're trying to get someone's attention, then obviously having it in a different color makes a lot of sense. But if you're just chatting and you just want to get someone's attention who's just straight up playing, why that's not actually yellow, I don't fully understand. Maybe that's probably a bug. That's what my guess is. But yeah, and also I want to go ahead and mention, if you go ahead and go in here and type in at, and actually it starts an autocomplete of all the users that are currently on the world at once, which is actually really handy, all things considered. But again, the whole yellow text thing, I don't fully understand why it works the way it does. It's a really useful feature, I will admit to that much, but why is it only yellow here? And why is it not yellow whenever I do this? I don't fully understand. Now, obviously, you can do this without the say command. Like, that's the button. Obviously, I have the say command in this command block. And you can obviously do the exact same thing if you were to type it out directly in chat instead of using command block. But I don't fully understand why it works the way it is. Maybe Mojang doesn't even realize it, or maybe they do and they need to fix this bug. Either way, yeah, that's kind of interesting, all things considered. Anyway, with that away, that is actually all there is to this update review. Again, it's not really a huge update. It's mostly bug fixes, which again, I'm not going to actually go into detail. You guys can check the link in the description to look in the entire changelog if you are interested in looking at that. But that's actually it for this entire review. Now, one last thing that I want to go ahead and mention before I go ahead and actually end off this video is that if you guys remember, quite a while ago, I said that I was going to make changes to this lab, make some updates, just add some additional features, and these features are actually almost completely done. So expect within maybe a week or so, depending on how much time I have, an actual update review of all the changes that have been made to lab. Obviously, as you've already seen in this video, we have these changes, which these have been in the lab for quite a while. These are not new by any means, but there are some other things that I want to update you guys on. Obviously, I am going to be mentioning these in the full-on update review. But yeah, there are obviously changes, as I mentioned, coming to the lab, and I'm going to be doing a full-on review of every single change that I'm making once all the changes are done. I realize it's not pertinent to the actual 1.7 update review, but for those of you who are on my channel, I just wanted to let you guys know what's going on. Anyway, with that out of the way, I think this is actually a good place to go ahead and end off the video. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you did, make sure that like button. Or more than make sure that subscribe button for future content. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at AgentCP0 to stay updated. This has been Zer0's. Thank you guys for watching, and with that, I will see you guys later.